Hi guys, while Reform UK have little or no influence in Parliament, their megaphone is of course amplified in the media, which is determined to give them as big a platform as possible for some reason. Now, I'm not Trevor Phillips' biggest fan, as I believe he sometimes lets MPs get away with stupid claims and doesn't grill them as I'd like to see. However, he did get somewhat under a Reform UK MP's skin, which resulted in Tetchy Richard Tice throwing a bit of a tantrum. Tice wanted to set the agenda, which of course excluded talking about a potential split in Reform UK. Now that's perhaps how things work at GB News, but not at Sky. Have a listen.
Very good morning to you. Well, the simple answer is yes, we absolutely can. Look at where we are in the polls, Trevor.
I've not asked you a question yet.
We're in the mid-20s. We're alongside the Tories and the Labour. So yes, the simple answer is the people want reform. We need root and branch reform in this country. Okay. And this appalling rape gang scandal that you've
hang about. Let's get to that. Let me ask you.
Well, that's the most important issue
first,
of the day,
if we may. This weekend, one of your MPs was heckled by a couple of members who are evidently supporters of Tommy Robinson and the English Defence League. Have you identified and expelled them?
No one's interested in a convicted criminal, Trevor. We're talking about the most horrific
I'm interested
scandal.
in your members. Have you found the two people who stood up and heckled Lee Anderson and said Tommy Robinson should be freed?
Trevor, are you going to ask questions about the most important horrific scandal?
Yes, I am. But I am. If you get to the point where you answer the question I've asked you.
No one's interested in your juvenile questions about some heckler at some event a couple of nights ago.
I would have ended the interview here. I would not have continued. I would have muted Richard Tice and told his team, if you're not interested in answering questions, then we're not going to continue this interview. What is the point in continuing an interview with somebody who doesn't want to answer questions? See, Richard Tice is used to being on Talk TV or on GB News, where he sets the agenda. Or Reform UK set the agenda, and they said, this is what we're going to talk about. And the journalists, if you want to call them that, the commentators, launch softball questions at them. Don't grill them. Now he's going on Sky News and he's expecting the exact same treatment. Now, kudos to Trevor Phelps for standing his ground here somewhat, but I would have ended the interview there. I would have told Reform UK team, their media team or whoever, or Richard Tice, if he's calling in directly, I would have said, the interview is over. I'm here to ask you questions. My job is to grill you. My job is to hold you to account. If you're not willing to respond to the questions, if you're not willing to answer them, then the interview is finished. It's disrespectful to the journalist and it's disrespectful to listeners or viewers. Because you're there to answer questions. If you're not capable of doing that, then send somebody else who is. It's extremely disrespectful. Not because I disagree with Reform UK, of course I do, but your job is to answer questions. If you're not capable of doing that, go somewhere else. But I believe that the interview should have ended here. And Trevor Phillips said we had to end the interview because he's not interested in answering questions.
Focus on the really important thing. Do your job properly.
I see. We're starting the new year with a message of peace and goodwill, are we? Let's just deal with the question I asked you, then we can get on to the things you want to talk about. Have you found those two? Have you found the people who heckled Lee Anderson, and do you plan to expel them? Answer yes or no, and then we can get on to the things you want to talk about.
It's irrelevant, Trevor. What's relevant is we want a national inquiry into the most horrific scandal. That's what tens of millions of people are focused on. That's what your viewers want to hear about. Instead, you're pursuing some juvenile line of
forgive me, Richard, I know what my viewers want to hear about.
Trevor,
what I'm going to take from this is that that reform will tolerate members of the English Defence League in their membership, which is fine.
What an arrogant piece of work. Telling the journalist what questions to ask. Telling the journalist, no, stop talking about internal splits within the Reform UK. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about something that we can use against the Labour government and potentially the Conservatives as well. Stop talking about us. Now, is this a trivial issue? Well, to a certain extent it could be. But unfortunately for Reform UK, the richest man in the world threw his support behind Tommy Robinson. And this is a problem for Reform UK because a significant number of people in Reform support the idea. Two of them, I believe, stood up at one of the rallies there and heckled Lee Anderson. demanding that Tommy Robinson be released. So there is at least a portion of support within Reform UK that support Tommy Robinson in some way. That's an embarrassment for them. You know, they're trying to distance themselves from Tommy Robinson and the EDL and the far right. But it's difficult for them to do that because a lot of those people, when they come out to vote, well, you know, there isn't somebody else to vote for. They vote for Reform. And some of them turn up at rallies for Reform. Some of them are interviewed in the media where they say, I support Reform UK, but what about Tommy? So, you know, this could have been somewhat trivial, but remember, the richest man in the world, who's planning, it seems, to donate a significant amount of money or at least some sort of support to Reform, supports Tommy Robinson at the same time. Now, Nigel Farage has responded to this by saying, well, you know, he has his opinions, Elon Musk, and we have our opinions. But if Elon Musk supports Tommy Robinson and he supports Reform, that's a problem. That's a problem for Reform UK. And it's difficult for you to say, look, we're not going to have anything to do with Elon Musk because of Tommy Robinson, because you need him. You've already said that you'd be happy to take his money. You'd be happy to see him support Reform. But the worst thing about all of this is the interview. As I said at the beginning, the interview should have ended here because at that point, because Richard Tice is not interested in being challenged. He's not interested in talking about a potential split within Reform UK. He just wants to pontificate. He just wants to use this platform to spew against the other parties, and he doesn't want to be challenged. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.